Liaison Forum. And I'd like now to refer to the minutes of the most recent meeting of the forum, which was held on the 8th of November 2016 at Chesterfield Community College. And, if we may, yes, thank you. Ian Manning, thank you. So Councillor Ian Manning apologises for his ill. Yes, Councillor Fiona Onasanya is on the age to 14 underway. And Councillor Peter Saris, we should apologise for also, register his apology. He's had an eye operation. So now if we can proceed to the minutes of the 8th of November, are people content that I should sign these as a correct record?
Good.
I should do that. And are there any matters arising from the meeting of that date? Yes, minutes of the 8th of November, matters arising, as you feel before we actually amended the terms of reference so that we could deal with matters arising. But I hear no voices, so therefore we'll move to the next item 2, Chair's update. I'd like to give an update. We had a productive meeting at the last local liaison forum. We went through the possibilities of what program we would follow in order to come to resolutions that from this local liaison forum would go to the City Deal Assembly and the City Deal Board. And they will go to the City Deal Assembly and the City Deal Board at their March meeting. The reason they have to go to the March meeting is because that's the next meeting that will fit in with timelines in terms of officers being able to do a report on what's come out of the Milton Road Local Liaison Forum. Of course, we have control over what the Local Liaison Forum does, but the officers have an obligation to do a report on what we've done that will go to the Assembly and to the Board, and it will go in March. We had a meeting here at Shire Hall on the 29th of November where the Local Liaison Forum members, all of us, or those who were present, and officers and consultants of the City Deal Board met, together with observers being local residents, and we went through resolutions that have been put forward in draft to get the feedback from the officers on those resolutions. And then coming out of that meeting, we've now come up with resolutions which we'll deal with today. I must first apologise for the fact that this meeting has not been publicised as well as it might, in that it was on the City Deal Board website, but unfortunately it did not appear on the Local Liaison Forum website. But I am very aware that people who knew it was not on the Local Liaison Forum website, part of the website, are actually here present this evening, and therefore they were able to negotiate the website and hence know precisely where the meeting was, what time it was, that it's here, and it was proceeding with resolutions. And as they could find it, then, and also as the residents' associations have been publishing and publicising widely this meeting, and we thank them for that, we do know that there has been considerable publicity about the holding of this meeting. But we regret it was not on the particular aspect or area of the website. Yeah, so welcome, Councillor Onasanya from the A14.
How is it today?
Now, as I've said, we're dealing with the resolutions this evening. Now, I should make clear that the people who will be voting on the resolutions are those who are part of the official forum. And as you know, we'll go around and everybody can introduce themselves, but as I trust that people know, there are the local councillors, city and county, from North area, which includes Kings Hedges, East Chesterton, West Chesterton, yes, and also Councillor Anna Bradnam from Milton, because we believed it was really important to include Milton, because that has, whatever happens in Milton Road will have an impact there, and also the representatives from the residents' associations, Hurst Park Estate Residents Association, Milton Road Residents Association, and Old Chesterton Residents Association. So perhaps if we could go around, do you mind starting, Charles, and introduce yourself?
Charles Nisbet, Milton Road residents.
Thank you.
Michael Page, Hurst Park Estate Residents Association.
Martin Stark, King's Hedges, Councillor.
Marjorie Milton, East Chesterton Councillor.
Kevin Price, Councillor for King's Hedges.
Michael Bond, Old Chesterton Residents Association.
Ruth Yule, Democratic Services Officer, taking the minutes.
Kerry Bird, East Chesterton Councillor and also Vice Chair of the LLF.
Jocelyn Scott, County Councillor for West Chesterton and Chair of the Local Liaison Forum.
Mike Sargent, City Councillor for West Chesterton.
Fiona Undersunny, County Councillor for King's Hedges.
James Tuttenfield, City Councillor for West Chesterton.
Sarah Austin, City Councillor for West Chesterton.
District Councillor for Milton.
Councillor Nigel Goldthorpe for King's Hedges and not East Chesterton is written down in the minutes.
Spread this down, Michael.
Yes. Now it's time for public questions. I do have a series of questions here from one of the participants here. Does anybody else have a question to ask at this time? No. I do have a series of questions here from Richard Taylor. There are 8 questions which I'm very happy to advise that I've responded to question 2, which related to meetings, workshops, etc. that we've had since the 8th of November meeting the Local Liaison Forum. And then there are other questions here. I'll respond to one of them. Let me see. Well, as it appears that the Greater Cambridge City Deal Board will not consider the Milton Road project again until March 2017, and in light of the lack of publication of notice of this evening's meeting yesterday on the website, and the lack of pre-publication of proposed resolutions, will the forum agree not to finalise their resolutions until they've been openly published for at least a week to enable public consideration of what's proposed? In response to that question, I say that I've addressed the issue of the publicity relating to this meeting, and on the issue of proposed resolutions, I do need to advise Mr Taylor that there is no lack of pre-publication of the proposed resolutions. The proposed resolutions have been published by the Residents Association, and therefore all those people who are voting on them have had a chance to look at them, and we're looking at them this evening. There was also, as I said, a meeting on the 29th of November where we considered resolutions, and it's our responsibility as the Local Liaison Forum to consider those resolutions and to reject or pass them as the case may be. And the residents therefore can object to resolutions that we pass or come to the meeting in March of the Assembly and of the Board and raise concerns about the resolutions that we've passed if they wish to do that. But we would hope that the residents would agree that the job that is being done by this Local Liaison Forum in terms of resolutions is one that's been done bearing very clearly in mind the interests of the residents and the value that the residents may be able to achieve from the city deal, because that's what we've been working at, to ensure that any action that the city deal takes will be action that is compliant with the residents' wishes as expressed through these resolutions. So I trust that that response to that question, Mr Taylor, is satisfactory to you. And if there are no further public questions, I'll move to item number 4, which is the do optimum alternative. And the reason why this was put on the agenda is because the residents' associations have been working very hard with Cambridge Cycling Campaign to come up with an alternative, which is the do optimum alternative. And I trust that everybody has a copy of the do optimum alternative, which appears in this form. And there's also a map that goes with it. So you, Mr Page or Mr Elizabeth, just want to speak very briefly to this proposal, or do you prefer that we just rely on what's written there and present it to the board and the Assembly in the form in which it appears?
If I can just find some notes here, I'd be happy to speak to it. If you just give me a second, I'll attempt to find my notes. They don't want to appear, so I shall. That's hard work for me. But I suppose what I should say is that the basic principles that we looked at in coming to this design were that if you design a city for people, it's quite different from designing a city for roads. So we were looking at designing for streets and people and places rather than roads and corridor transport. Another important principle then was to separate and segregate pedestrians and cyclists from traffic, because we considered that safety of pedestrians and cyclists is paramount. And clearly the best way to do that is by separation using trees and verdures. So if you look at your document, you'll see a cross-section there which pretty much characterises what we based our design on. We've been through several iterations of this, and we've learnt a lot through the workshops, and we've been able to build into the latest iteration, we think, the majority of the comments received. And indeed, we have made allowance for a minimal number of bus lanes on approaches or exits from junctions in various ways at various junctions. But of course, the degree to which bus lanes and their locations may or may not be required is very dependent, we believe, on other developments and mitigation measures which are likely to have an effect on travel patterns. For example, Cambridge North Station, the likelihood of Adam Hook Station, the city centre congestion plans, and potentially other bus routes around the centre, and parking controls are just a few factors which need to be modelled and understood. So when it comes to bus priority, we think there's a lot of other things to take into account. Bus priority isn't just a question of bus lanes, it's a lot of other things to do with the type of bus stops that we build and so on and so forth. I think that the other benefits in terms of cycling and walking are self-evident in the diagrams, and the other benefits of environment and streetscape and air quality, in particular the effects on human health. So that's just a very brief introduction to it, and I hope that people who've been coming to the workshops will already be well aware of what these designs are, because we've taken your inputs into account.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Because as I've said, we'll include this do optimum proposal in what we put to the board, in the sense that we'll deliver it certainly to the board. I would like to propose that we take the following approach in relation to the resolutions that we've got before us. We have 13 resolutions, and I would like to propose this. that we commence with resolution 2 and go all the way through to resolution 10. Then return to resolution 1 and then proceed with 11, 12 and 13. The reason I'm proposing that is that resolutions 2 through to 10 are based in one sense on the proposal that's been put forward by the City Deal Assembly and Board, on which we are obliged to comment and to make our resolutions. And they substantially amend what that proposal is, to do something proposal. And those amendments are in fact consistent with the optimal proposal. So what I would suggest is that we move through these 1 to 10, because it seems to me that we'll get through the, 2 to 10, because it seems to me that we can move rapidly through those, then come back to number 1, on which there may well be some discussion. So would members be content if we proceed in that way? Yeah. Thank you. Good. Well, let's go to resolution number 2, which is that on Union Lane and Milton Road. I shan't read them out because I'm trusting that everybody has a copy of those resolutions, and if they do not have a copy, then please let us know. There are extra copies at the back, but if they've all run out, then please let us know because I have extra copies here.
Sorry, Justin, can I just ask a question? So
Yeah.
you rushed on rather quickly.
I'm sorry.
I'm just slightly concerned that if we don't, that 1 does have an impact. The thinking on 1 has an impact on how you might view the other. They're not, although they're discrete issues, the first one, depending on how that rolls out, might have an impact on how you feel about the others. I don't know if people feel that.
It didn't, because as you said in your introductory remarks moments ago, if to do something proposal is picked up and taken forward by the city league and the option is ignored or doesn't make it, then these comments still apply to do something.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, number 2...
Can I ask a question as well? Not to be cheeky, but just so everyone knows, do we have an end time planned? So everyone knows what we can do by. People can stay forever, can't they?
No, that's correct. I think that the time was advertised to close at 8:30 at the outside.
You might be assured that we will get to resolution 1.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no. There's no doubt that, we certainly don't intend to avoid any of the resolutions. We'll go right through to 13. But if we proceed with number 2. Now, number 2, as I said, I shan't read it out, but it relates to the Union Lane, Milton Road, the proposition that it should be closed. Though I should say that when I look at the wording, I would say that what we're requesting is that the board reject the closure of Union Lane Junction as proposed, because people will recall that last time we did discuss the possibilities of having delayed exit and delayed entry to Union Lane. And what the officers said on that occasion was that it would be better to have a general resolution rather than one that said we could close it for, an hour at the peak time, or have it open at different times, or have a delayed mechanism with the stop and go lights. So it seems to me that this resolution here, resolution 2, is consistent with what we discussed at that time, because we did discuss the possibility of having delayed entry and exit.
So in order not to lose it, would it be a good idea to put in the sense that you also said, and to consider, in this case, consider significant changes such as double yellow lines, etc. And do you want to add in there, and facing on lights, perhaps, or something of that sort?
I think that's too prescriptive. I think as proposed is a good way of doing it.
Yes,
As a resident of East Chesterton and a regular user of this junction, the resolution as drafted is actually picking up the principal point, which is this is the third sensible exit and entrance into East Chesterton, and actually takes a lot of traffic away from the roundabout at Chesterton Road, Elizabeth Way Junction, which at peak times, those of you who have to negotiate it will know it's not nice. And there were a number of ideas coming up, which frankly as a regular user I found, shall we say, interesting but a bit balmy. And I think one of the things that we have to do is have something which actually meets what I regard as an important thing, is that whatever we do to mitigate the situation for those who commute across Cambridge should not, at the same time, completely mess up the intra-Cambridge movement on which the city's life depends.
Councillor Price.
I therefore recommend this motion to you.
Just a brief point, Chair, if I may. I think it might be wise if you read out the resolution. That's the wording in bold, so that everybody is clear. Because if everybody hasn't got a copy of it, I'm not talking about reading it out the preamble, but I just think the wording of the resolution might be best read so that people really understand what we're about to vote on.
Yeah. This resolution is the Milton Road Local Liaison Forum, therefore, based on the preamble, requests the board to reject the closure of Union Lane Junction, I have added as proposed, and to direct officers to investigate alternative ideas for the junction and to consider mitigation measures such as double yellow lines on the southwest side of Union Lane from the junction down to Poole Close. So that's the resolution, and I understand that, I put in the words as proposed. Councillor Bradnam may go down as the mover, and Councillor Sargent is the seconder of putting it as proposed. Is that correct?
I'm happy to second.
Yeah, good. So are we all happy then with that resolution? The Milton Road Local Liaison Forum therefore requests the board to reject the closure of Union Lane Junction as proposed and to direct officers to investigate alternative ideas for the junction and to consider mitigation measures such as double yellow lines on the southwest side of Union Lane from the junction down to Pearl Close.
Yep.
Oh, yes, Councillor Tunnicliffe.
What is the thinking behind the double yellow lines?
Simply to restrict parking to one side of Union Lane, thus leaving the road clearer for traffic and cyclists. At the moment, cyclists take their lines because they have to zigzag, cars have to zigzag, and this would actually make life easier for them.
I think perhaps I can deal with it by saying this. When we had the meeting on the 29th of November, to which all members of the Local Liaison Forum were invited, we had extensive discussion. This was actually one of the hugest discussion that we had about this particular proposal. So it would seem to me that in light of the fact that we've already had that extensive discussion, that we should be able to put this resolution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Well, would somebody move that we put the resolution? Good. And does somebody second that we put the resolution? Good. So then I move the resolution. All in favour of this resolution? Thank you.
Sorry, the other thing was that any change should be monitored. Do you remember who said, and Ian Manning requested, that if that was, we're not.
No,
We're not.
Can we move on to resolution 3 then?
What about those again?
Oh, anybody against? Right. Councillor Tunnicliffe and Councillor Austin abstains. What's that?
Councillor Fire abstained.
Councillor Price.
Previously stated, I'm not.
You've abstained? Oh, because, yeah. I should have made clear Councillor Price is on the Assembly and therefore he's abstaining because it will come before him as a member of the Assembly. If we can move to number 3, which is the Elizabeth Way Highworth Roundabout, and I will read it out. The Milton Road Local Liaison Forum calls on the board to take forward a roundabout design based on that in the Do Optimum scheme, which also includes vehicular access to Highworth Avenue. Now, is anybody, are members content that we put that resolution?
Can I just make it clear that that resolution stands even if the Do Optimum proposal itself isn't taken forward?
Yes.
We still think that is a better form of roundabout.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely, because yes, whether the Do Optimum goes forward or not, they will have the Do Optimum before them and they know precisely what we're talking about. So I'll put this resolution, is everybody, who is in favour of this resolution?
We haven't had any debate about it or?
Sorry?
No, oh, sorry.
If you want to.
Oh, do people want to make a comment? I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, as long as it's safe for cyclists, which it hopefully is. But
Yes, safer than it is now.
the wording doesn't suggest that it just says vehicular access.
No, because vehicle access was retained, but the design of roundabout you suggested would actually be safer for cyclists and pedestrians.
Sorry, Chair.
Thank you. Is everybody, who's in favour of this resolution? Anybody against the resolution? Anybody abstaining? Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Now we move on to number 4, which is two-way cycling lanes. The local liaison forum requests the board to require that any plans carried forward for Milton Road should incorporate two-way cycling safety features at the above locations. And these are between Asham Road and Kings Hedges Road Junction on the northwest side, between Herbert Street and the Asham Road Junction at Tucson Crossing on the east side, and there's an alternative two-way crossing between Herbert Street and George Street. This is all contained in the preamble. Yes, Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing because if the only resolution we're putting forward is that in bold, then it won't make any sense, will it? So I think we need to include the 2 bullet points in the resolution. Yeah?
Well, my understanding, I see what you're saying. I mean, we would be putting these resolutions with the preamble and then the resolution. However, is there a seconder of Councillor Sargent's proposition that in the resolution itself we include the 2 bullet points?
The location should be identified.
Yeah, right. So we're amending that then to put in resolution 4, the local liaison forum requests the board to require that any plans carried forward for Milton Road should incorporate.
I would do it as two-way cycling features at the following locations.
Yes. As follows: between Asham Road and the Kings Hedges Road Junction on the northwest side, where the majority of schools, pubs, shops, library and community hubs are located, and between Herbert Street and the Asham Road Tucson crossing on the southeast side, or alternatively by providing a two-way crossing between Herbert Street and George Street. So is everybody clear as to the resolution? Yeah. And so is everybody who is in favour of that resolution?
As amended.
As
amended.
Incorporating the 2 dot points as I read it. Yes. Is there anybody against that resolution? Anybody abstaining? Good.
Okay.
Now, what about resolution 5? This is headed Walking and Cycling Safety. The resolution is the local liaison forum urges the board to instruct officers to implement segregation of pedestrians and cyclists from motor traffic by trees and verges on both sides of the road in any new design. Do we have any comment on that? I think that we should note, and I know everybody will be aware, that there are parts of the road where there are shops and there are no verges on those parts of the road. So I think that when we're passing this, we need to bear in mind that there are parts of the road where there are shops, so there are no
Perhaps we
verges.
could just put in, by trees and verges on both sides of the road, wherever possible.
Yeah.
I think
That means you should have just put one in and put nowhere and
If
no.
anything on a residential,
That gives them open-ended.
but I think it's only that one.
I don't think we should put wherever possible, just because I don't want there to be a caveat where they can say, oh, sorry, it wasn't possible.
I think,
just to
Chairman,
see,
it would be better to leave the resolution as it is. It's fairly simple, fairly clear. What we're basically saying is you keep pedestrians and cyclists away from the traffic and by safeguarding. And in fact, if you are doing some serious work on Milton Road, it would be possible to actually have such a verge in front of the shops and would actually improve the outlook.
Councillor Simons, did you want to say something?
Well, I think Mr. Bond took the words out of my mouth.
Well, I should add too, that on the 9th of June, in consequence of two resolutions that were put forward by the residents' associations and came through the local liaison forum, we got a very strong assurance from the City Deal Board about trees and verges, and it seems to me that this resolution actually fits into what the board said, because it did talk about verges, it did adopt the notion that we have trees and so on. And I think that we're looking at this resolution against the backdrop of that letter, which is a very strong assurance about trees and verges. Yes?
Absolutely it is, Chair. But the crucial thing about this is where those trees are.
Yes.
Bicycle down there at the moment, there are trees and verges,
Yeah.
but you are cycling alongside the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're...
The issue here is where those verges and trees are going to be.
Exactly. And that's what the resolution is saying, precisely. Yes.
Sorry, just I'm slightly concerned. I'm aware that if we look at Hills Road, where they put the new cycle lanes, they put a very, very